times before this.
Oh, that might have been in the open. Good morning, everybody. Well, it might not be morning where you are, but I forgot that I have to click twice to get things recording and going. So a little bit of a blip there at the start of the podcast. Welcome to Two Spot Monkeys Live. It is episode 77. We'll see how this episode goes since I couldn't even get it started right this morning. But I am Jim, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how the heck are you?
Ooh, Jim. Well, happy February. And it's Friday. We're back on. We're recording on Fridays. Yay. So again,
after we threw that's week off last week.
Yeah, not that most folks necessarily tune in on our YouTube stream while we, simulcast. That's the right term, simulcast. Mm-hmm. We had done a couple things different leading up to this, but February looks like it should be all Friday recordings, our nice normal Friday destination. It gives me something always to look forward to on a Friday, in addition to the fact that it just simply is Friday, and hallelujah, we made it to the end of another week.
Absolutely. And yes, it looks like Friday should work. Hopefully, we'll see. We say that, and then life gets in the way sometimes. So
I know. I probably just put that into the universe, and the universe is like, "Ha, watch what we do to you."
Right? Like this will be the only Friday all month now. But hopefully, it'll be Fridays. We'll see. But we don't have a huge list of things, but we're going to freestyle towards the end, and who knows? We say that, and we go, long anyways. So. But the first thing we should talk about, Tom, aside from the fact that, yes, it is February and winter has definitely hit you, and we got the cold. We avoided the snow. We avoided that huge storm that swept through the whole country, basically. But we got the north side of it, which is just bitter cold. It has made it up to 10 already, I see on my computer this morning. So, hey, look out, heat wave coming. I think we're going to get to 30 today. So that'll be nice after the last couple of days of nowhere near 20. So, but it was the Royal Rumble this past weekend on Saturday, which still just feels weird. And every time on Raw that I heard somebody say on Saturday night, like it instead of last night, it was jarring to my ears. I got to get used to that, I guess. But we had our head-to-head that we did last week, and it was ugly. I'm not going to lie. It was not great. The Rumble's always a tough one, though, because you literally have more than 30 options in two of the matches because some of those spots aren't known to us. And that played in both Rumbles, although we kind of talked about both options. I went 3-3 on the Rumble. And Tom, you went 1-5 on the Rumble.
Yeah. Yep. Nothing but a big can of stink.
And we both missed. I'm trying to,
you could call my picks the Royal Fumble.
The Royal Fumble. There you go. You got Becky Lynch right.
Yay.
Which seemed like low-hanging fruit. I got Becky Lynch right. I got Brock Lesnar winning the Rumble, and I got Edge and Beth Phoenix winning their tag match right. And then the other three I lost. Tom, you saw the Rumble. Did you see it live?
No, did not watch it live on Saturday. Don't think I watched. No, I did not watch it all on Sunday because I was invested in the NFL championship games for the conferences. So I watched it. I watched it throughout the day on Monday.
Okay. And I watched some of it on Sunday and then about the first half ish, and then watched about the rest of it on Monday because I've been working from home this week. So I was able to have it on while I was doing work. So
I was spoiled on the Rumble winners because
okay.
I wasn't worried about staying off social media because I didn't really, and with what I had heard, I know we recorded Wednesday and then more information came out about Ronda Rousey later in the week. So that wasn't a big surprise. Both her being in and then ideally, winning. Again, WWE, and then we'll talk more about it, of course, I don't know, but that's, they like to focus on the people they think that are going to draw them the WrestleMania buy rate or the ticket sales or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I saw a comment, I believe it was on Fightful, that Sean Ross Sapp had been talking to some people backstage and morale is really low right now and that sort of thing. And at least one person had said, and maybe more, I don't know, had said that it feels like they focus on about 4 people and then that's it. And I think now, really thinking back and looking at things on the Rumble, and it's hard to make that hard to counter that argument in any way, shape, or form. What were your thoughts as you were watching the? Well, let's run down the results, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we can maybe kind of talk through as we hit matches. There was no kickoff show, or there was a kickoff show, but no match on it, I should say. Which, when you've got 60 people involved in 2 different matches, probably makes some sense. There wasn't anything burning. Although the Usos could have had a match on there, because where were they Saturday night? I know they were banned from ringside for the match, but it didn't mean they couldn't be in the building. I didn't think. They could have had a match, but they're now getting their tag title match, or their defense, at Elimination Chamber. I saw announced yesterday with the Viking Raiders. So we'll finally see that paid off. Hopefully no trash monsters in that match. But we started with, I got to find the Rumble. There it is. The Universal title match. There we started. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Seth beats Roman by DQ when Roman won't let go of the guillotine. Seth came out to the Shield entrance. I loved it. Loved that entrance. What did you think when that Shield music hit, Tom?
Yeah, no, it was super cool. I mean, yeah. So I'll give this now before you hit all the results. I really liked the Rumble. Like, I didn't have a problem. I thought it was an entertaining show from start to finish. Again, have I lowered my expectations for what I expect from WWE? Maybe, maybe not. I know we'll hit on some specifics in terms of things that maybe landed or didn't land with us as we talk more about this. But yeah, no, to me, this started really strong, and the throwback to the Shield with Rollins in the entrance, the music, the apparel, all of those things tied into some of the build that got us here too.
And I really liked that even though he used the Shield music and came through the crowd, he was still Seth freaking Rollins as far as his mannerisms and things. Like, he didn't go back to Shield Seth, if that makes sense. I liked that he stayed in character, but yet added those things to play the mind games, which is Rollins' strong suit. I mean, obviously he's great in the ring too, but his character all along, at least since leaving the Shield, has been a person who plays mind games with his opponent and tries to get in their head, and then can back it up in the ring. And this was match of the night without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, there wasn't any hope for anything else, honestly, until I hated the finish. And I didn't hate the finish. I thought the finish made a lot of sense in the story and in the character of Roman Reigns. Now, I know where we'll probably go. The thing is, where does it lead to next? And it appears that there's not any follow-up that's going to take place. So while that's frustrating, that shouldn't mean that the match and the finish didn't have a place. That's my stance. Sure. And I think it was. I think that is a huge piece of it, that I know it's not leading to anything. Rollins isn't going to get a rematch. Most likely he's in the chamber, so we know he's not going to get a rematch at Elimination Chamber. And then, we're off to the races for Brock and Roman, not Rock and Roman. That'd be nice, be really fun, but maybe LA the next year. And so there's no follow-up. And then I think the piece too is, and I'm waxing poetic nostalgia here maybe, but I prefer finishes like that on the build, and then the big match at the pay-per-view or the premium live event or whatever stupid thing we want to call the event, to be the payoff. And I think AEW does a really good job of that. And some other companies do a really good job as well. However, maybe I'm just asking for something that's not really going to happen in WWE. So again, maybe I need to lower my expectations on that.
I haven't done enough analysis, formally or informally, but I think the storytelling of WWE as a whole has taken a shift. And I think this is a great example.
Did you mean the F in there? Because I think you could also say the F could get dropped. But anyways.
And this is a good example of that. Because it is the foreseeable future doesn't appear to have anything with Roman and Seth that being said, like I think fans say, I want more and I desire more. So like, does WWE kind of dangle that carrot out for until whenever? Again, maybe it comes back around at Survivor Series or SummerSlam or some other, I don't know, premium live event, as you were accurately recalling that is now the new name.
I hope you're right on that. I just feel like WWE they don't care what happened last week. So to think that they're going to pull it, although sometimes they fall into it and then they're like, oh yeah, we meant to do that because we were telling this story from 8 months ago. And you're like, no, you weren't.
And I'm gonna, I know we wanted to do all the results, but I'm going to jump ahead because I think this ties in here. So in the Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley match, Roman Reigns got involved. Paul Heyman got involved.
Mm-hmm.
Lashley wins the WWE title because Roman Reigns gets the belt handed to him by Paul Heyman. Roman then hits Brock, and that allows Lashley to get the victory in the championship. Again, setting the stage further for Brock, Roman, and now the issue between Brock and Paul Heyman is another arm of this story. I don't thread. I'm at a loss for words with that this morning, so my apologies. But again, so like if the Seth Roman thing continued, how does that happen with this other story in the forefront? And so again, WWE should be smart enough, and the writers should be well versed enough, and the creators should be, able to tell multiple stories. Like, I don't think the audience is that dumb. I think they are, sadly. You can have two stories going on, but they clearly aren't. So I wanted to bring that out because I think that issue and that being like, again, WrestleMania and then Roman and Brock, whatever it ends up looking like, that's where WWE, that's the mission that WWE's on promoting. So Roman Seth's issue, again, sinks below the surface and just simmers, or doesn't even simmer.
I think that's my issue. If it simmered, if there were still nuggets along the way, okay, and maybe there will be, but I think my reaction was based on there's not going to be, because I don't believe there will be.
Sure. Yep. And the track record over the last 12 months gives you every reason to have that opinion.
And to talk about, let's just kind of talk about the Brock and Lashley match, and then we can bounce back to other things. For me, I thought the Heyman handing Roman the belt thing was done great. Where Roman just put his hand out, and then Heyman looked terrified at first, and then slowly, and then the face changed too. And Heyman's so good at that, like his reactions and things. So he was terrified, and then it became that sinister, like, haha, we got you all. And that was one of those things where even though we all knew it was coming, or we all pretty well suspected it was coming, it was still done well. And so even though it may have been predictable, I still enjoyed it because it was done well. What I didn't love about that finish was you had Brock get the 10 count on Bobby Lashley after the F5 when he's pinning him and the ref's knocked out. And then you have Roman be the whole reason that Bobby Lashley wins the match. Like, Bobby Lashley didn't even hit a move after Roman hit him with the belt. And you spent the whole story up till the match with Brock saying Bobby's a nobody. I mean, you kind of just said that Bobby was a nobody. Like,
and he's not. He clearly isn't.
Right?
Yeah, he clearly is not. But yeah, you're positioning him in what you're doing. Like, why can't Bobby Lashley be on the same level with a Roman and a Brock? When the dust settles, right? Even if there's a little bit of by hook or by crook, which is what we saw here.
Again, and he's a heel, and I'm okay with by hook or by crook.
But is he okay? So that's the other question I want to pose. Who are the heels here and who are the baby faces? Right? Because so like Lashley wins and he was like high-fiving fans and he was coming up the aisle with the belt. Like, that's a baby face move if there ever was one. I mean, I get him being excited, but he's been to the dance before. This isn't his first title win. Like, I can see the emotion of it being the first title win and then that happening if you're a heel. But is he even a heel? And now is Brock a heel? Brock is like so I think Roman's definitely a heel. And that was proven by how he choked out Rollins and realigning with Paul Heyman and then screwing Brock Lesnar. I don't think Brock Lesnar is a heel. I also don't think Brock Lesnar is a babyface. I think he is very much walking the line of just being a BA, a Haas BA, and he just wants to be the best and be the beast incarnate. Lashley, I think he was a babyface for this one night, but he's probably going to go back into that heel space. But again, who are the guys that you want to cheer in WWE right now then?
Well, and yeah, exactly. And Brock's whole buildup with Bobby, saying saying Bobby Lashley's a nobody when he's not. He's clearly not. Was heelish. I mean, let's just name it what it is. Like, instead of saying, you know what, you are a tough SOB, and I'm, looking forward to testing myself against you. I know I'm going to beat you, but I also know it's not going to be a walk in the park. Okay, that's a babyface way to do that and build, the thing. They didn't do that. They had Brock treat Bobby like a nobody, and then clearly pin him for a 10 count. Didn't need to be a 10 count, by the way. Could have been like a 3 or a 4. Didn't need to be a 10. And then, you have Roman's work being the whole reason Bobby wins. Like I said, have Bobby Lashley pick him up and hit a Dominator and then pin him, So at least there's something Bobby Lashley did to make it more devastating than just the attack from Reigns. But instead, you made Roman Reigns is the guy. He's the reason for everything. And Bobby Lashley. And now what does Bobby Lashley do? Now Bobby Lashley is going to go defend his title in the chamber. Wouldn't it make more sense to have that chamber be for who faces Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, by the way? Seems like it could have been a thing. We'll get to it in a couple of weeks. I'm not convinced Bobby Lashley walks out of the chamber with the belt either. I'm not convinced we're even setting up who Bobby Lashley faces at WrestleMania. We could be setting up 2 or 3 other things. I think there are definitely ways that could go. Brock Lesnar is in the chamber. Brock Lesnar is a real threat for them to put the WWE title on him and do the title versus title match that they've been teasing. They could also go another way. I don't know. I suspected, and when we talked about the Brock and Bobby match, I suspected they might do this, and I talked about that, and then I went the other way. So I wish I would have stuck to my guns and had the guts to pull the trigger on Bobby Lashley so that I could have gotten one more win, and one of us could have been over 500 on this show. But and you had said, if I remember right, you had said you wouldn't be shocked, with this sort of outcome either. Because it could lead to what happened in the Men's Rumble, which we'll get to a little bit later on. The second match of the show was the Women's Rumble. Kind of surprising that they placed it here. I'll admit, of course, Ronda Rousey wins the Rumble. I'll admit, when they placed it second, my first thought was, and the winners had not been spoiled for me, so I did not know at that point who'd won. My first thought was, okay, Rousey's not in it then, because they wouldn't put it second if Rousey was going to win it. Well, Jim was wrong on that thought. So this wasn't great. I think my issue with the Rumble, so out of 30 people in the Rumble, 15 women were active Raw and SmackDown superstars out of 30. Now we can bump that to 16 if you count Sonya Deville. She's kind of a floater. And hadn't been really in the ring much lately. She had just kind of started coming back, and I hope she's back in the ring full time, because I think that would be really great. I'm a Sonya Deville fan, but I think her character work as a authority figure, or whatever you want to say, lately has been really good too. So we can bump that to 16 if you want there, and then you have Ronda. I don't know. There were some things in it. Molly Holly and Nikki ASH attacking her when she came out, I thought was great. Like, how do you not have that? That was one of the few times, and we're going to talk about this a few times throughout the women's and the men's Rumble. There were a number of interactions that you're like, how do you not book those two people together? How is there no crossover between these people in the Rumble? That was one where they didn't miss the boat. You got to have Molly Holly and Nikki ASH cross paths, and they did, and I thought they did it really well. I don't know. What do you think about the women's Rumble before I go?
Yeah. So from an in-ring action standpoint, again, not overwhelmingly great, but I thought it was fine for what it was. I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like Sasha Banks getting an early run and then getting out early. Like, if you bring Sasha Banks and you treat her like that,
Less than 10 minutes in the Rumble.
Yeah,
9 minutes and 44
that
seconds.
was crazy to me. Like, you could have done something really special with her. And like, it's so weird when I think of like Sasha Banks in the scheme of WWE. Like, I don't feel like they're maximizing her. And I know that things have been a little bit weird for her in the last 2 years. And I say weird, but like, injuries and the pandemic perhaps being a factor. I don't know all the backstage stuff. And I know clearly she's been in commercials. She was in The Mandalorian. So acting is a thing for her as well, I suppose. Again, why WWE didn't want to cross over there. And like, I know like they'd be like promoting, Disney and ESPN and ABC, and they don't have a relationship there. Their relationship really is with NBC Universal, and that is a competing interest, perhaps. Anyway, like Sasha Banks can be and is young still. Like, again, so overwhelming theme with a lot of things here is you're focusing on, like, I hate to say one trick ponies, but like Ronda Rousey had a wonderful run a few years ago. I think this is going to be a 1 year run or less, and then she's probably sunsetting, or she becomes the Brock Lesnar of the women's division, and she just comes back periodically. Again, nothing wrong with focusing on her here, and I think she is a draw for WrestleMania and for Dallas, without a doubt, for both fans that still are 100% invested and perhaps people who are casual fans that may have been on the fringe. But yeah, like some bits and pieces of stories were told, like again, the Molly Holly, Nikki ASH kind of segment, Sonya Deville and Cameron, because of the issue with Naomi. The finish was funky at the end. I don't know if it felt a little rushed to me, a little like too sudden. And the fact that it was Ronda and Charlotte, and if that's the direction for WrestleMania, which it appears that that's where we're headed, just seemed weird. Just, I don't know. Just it didn't land well with me.
Because again, you've got, and we kind of talked about this, I think, last week, you've got this built-in story of Becky Lynch pinning Ronda Rousey, 3 years ago at WrestleMania, whenever that was. Was that the last time WrestleMania was? No, last year WrestleMania fans. The last regular WrestleMania, maybe, like 3-4 years ago. And
so that'll have been 19 WrestleMania, the year of
2019.
Yeah.
And Ronda Rousey's shoulders not being on the mat for that 3 count. Like, the story's right there. And now she's big time Bex. So you could have Ronda come back as the baby face. The problem is, if they did that, I don't think people would cheer Ronda Rousey, because people are already cheering Becky. They don't want Becky to be a heel. Becky wants to be a heel. WWE wants her to be a heel. Nobody else wants her to be a heel. So they're cheering Becky for the most part, even though I think Becky is doing a good job trying to be a heel. I think her character work has been good. I don't know if you saw the segment on Raw on Monday, the closing segment with her and Ronda, and then her and Lita.
No, I have watched only one match on WWE TV this week, and even though I'm excited for SmackDown tonight because of other opportunities and obligations, I'm not probably going to record it because I probably won't get to it. So yeah, all of that's a long way to say I'm not really. Even the Rumble I thought was decent or good, I'll call it good. I'm not on fire to watch WWE. So
yeah. And I haven't watched Raw in a long time because I was here home this week. I went ahead and watched it on Tuesday while I was working, and so I was paying attention. Not it didn't have my sole attention, but I did eventually. Then I didn't actually see the final segment until last night because the audio sync at the end of Raw got really weird on my recording. I haven't seen anybody else complaining about it, so I think it was something either with my recording on YouTube TV or something more local than widespread. But I did watch Main Event on Hulu yesterday because I have Hulu, and watched that segment because I knew they'd show it, and I wanted to kind of just see how it played out. And
let's be honest, you wanted to see Veer Mahaan.
Well, if he isn't going to ever show up on Raw, I might as well check him out on Main Event. So how does Veer Mahaan not get into the Royal Rumble? I mean, he's coming to Raw. Like, the Royal Rumble would be a great place to debut him. We'll talk about that.
He didn't show up on Raw yet. You can't show up in the Rumble if you haven't shown up on Raw.
That's true. But you can show up on Main Event if you haven't shown up on Raw, for the love of God. Yeah. Anyways, that could be a whole other thing. But I thought Becky tries really hard as a heel. She tries to be a heel. You just don't want her to be. And I think against Ronda, she wouldn't be. Ronda might get cheered against Charlotte Flair, but Tom, do you remember the Brock Lesnar and Goldberg match at WrestleMania 20 when they were leaving?
Yep.
Stone Cold was the ref, and the crowd just crapped all over that match.
Yeah.
Look out, Dallas. I think we could be headed there with Ronda and Charlotte. I think the crowd I don't think they're going to cheer either one of them. And I think it could be a really, WrestleMania crowds are always, their own little world anyway, is WrestleMania and the Raw after. I don't know. I think that could be interesting. I loved seeing Sarah Logan back. I always liked Sarah Logan and wish WWE would have done something a little more with her. She looked a lot like Max the Impaler when she first came out from Ring of Honor. So quick second of like, is that, okay, it's Sarah Logan. I hated that they teased the reunion or the hug or whatever was going to come between her and Liv and then immediately just dumped everybody out. It didn't matter. I was just counting here. There were 7 people in that match who did not last a minute. And then Kelly Kelly lasted 105. And Kelly Kelly did not look like Kelly Kelly. Like facially, it did not even look like the same person to me. She's, I think, had some work done maybe, or I don't know. But
see, I want to say I saw a tweet where she said she hasn't had work done. Wow. Maybe in a major way. Maybe she hasn't. Maybe she has. I don't know. She was kind of talking about how, as a woman and having matured, like, I think she's in her mid-30s now. Like facially, she does look different. Like and
it's a marked difference. I mean, which
sure.
And if she hasn't, I don't mean to infer that she's had work done, but wow. Most people, women, men, whatever, like you can see that, like, even though, yes, of course we change over age, I've changed, you've changed, everybody changed. Like if she would have just come out with no screen and they didn't say who she was, I'd have had no clue who she was. I would not have known it was Kelly Kelly.
And I think the fallback is, again, that's a cosmetic industry, right? So when you notice, or it's a stark difference, because it's such a cosmetic image-based industry, you're going to call it out more.
And she only lasted 1:05, so I guess I didn't have a lot of chance to get a good look at her either and make sure I did know who she was. But it feels like there were a couple other things to call out. Mickie James got 11 minutes and got 1 elimination. Good for her. No surprise that out of the surprises, even the announced, I guess she was announced, competitors, but the non-regular WWE competitors, I guess, no surprise that the longest lasting was Michelle McCool. It helps to be married to Undertaker. She had 20 minutes in the Rumble. Didn't do a whole lot with it, only eliminated 1 person, but she was there, and that was Dana Brooke, who made it a whole 2 minutes. The Iron Woman for this match, just for what it's worth, was Bianca Belair. She had 47 minutes and 30 seconds. And just because they needed to really build her, she got to eliminate 1 person. That was part of mine, is outside of Ronda Rousey and the little Nikki, ASH, Molly Holly, which probably leads nowhere, and that's okay. Although Molly's a producer, so they could do something if they wanted, for a 2-week Raw storyline or anything. I'm not saying that's a WrestleMania match, but you could have a match between them if Molly wanted to. I don't know if Molly wants to do that. They just didn't build anybody. And there's going to be, you're going to hear me say it again in the men's Rumble. What did you do to make anybody else special in that match?
Yeah, well, just a good example. You mentioned Bianca's length as being the Iron Woman for this one. You could have easily, even if there's not a match on the horizon, and maybe there is, because that was the main event of WrestleMania last year. Sasha and Bianca. Hello, you could have had them both go late and and told a story there. Again, that used to be part of what was a regular staple, and that felt missing in both Rumbles this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And her 1 elimination was Natalya. I don't think that's leading anywhere. Charlotte Flair had the most eliminations with 5. And again, so we need to build Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte Flair is pretty made. We don't necessarily need to do that. I was just going to look. The final 4 were Charlotte, Bianca, Ronda,
Shayna.
And Shayna. Oh, there's another one. You teased the Shayna Ronda thing. I hope it leads somewhere down the road. Whether it's a match, whether it's them teaming up, I could see them being a killer tag team for the women's tag division that doesn't really exist in WWE, because every other champion brought their belts out with them except for the women's tag champs. I thought that was interesting throughout the night. Even Mickie James, who has a belt that doesn't belong in WWE, wore her title, which probably was part of the agreement of her working the match. So I get it. But literally, your women's tag champs were the only ones that didn't bring their belts with them to the ring because they don't matter. But Ronda and Shayna just killing tag teams would be fun for a little bit on the side of whatever else Ronda's doing. But I digress. When they kind of squared off and smiled at each other, I thought they were going to then turn around and just start wrecking rumbles. And maybe it would come down to Ronda and Shayna at the end, which I thought could be really cool. And then have Ronda, don't trust anybody and throw Shayna out kind of thing. I hope for too much for Shayna Baszler.
No, you don't. You do, but you don't. Like you shouldn't feel that way, but they make you feel that way because you know what she did in NXT, you know what she's capable of, and then she comes to this bigger stage, which arguably should then accentuate the strengths that she demonstrated in NXT, and it doesn't.
Absolutely. Anything else on the women's Rumble, Tom?
No.
Yeah, probably. Give that more time. Becky Lynch and Doudrop next. I felt bad for them here. The WrestleMania sign caught on fire after Ronda Rousey's fireworks went off. And so they had to evacuate that section of the stands, the stadium, because the WrestleMania sign was on fire.
That didn't cause a big disruption on the show. I was kind of one eye on the screen, one eye in work, but
disruption in that I don't think the fans were really paying attention to Becky and Doudrop.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. It seemed like it was pretty flat in the arena.
Yeah.
So
and so I think, well, I won't say it was the greatest match ever or anything. I think it was better than it got reacted to, if that makes sense. But that wasn't their fault. Even there were a couple of spots actually where you could see like Becky had a headlock or something, and she was doing this and looking up at the, probably so determining like, were they going to get told, take it home, we got to empty this arena? St. Louis is on fire.
What do you know what they use that venue for? It's a huge venue. Was that where the Rams used to play?
I believe it was where the Rams played.
Okay.
And where maybe a future St. Louis football team might play, because that's not the Cardinals stadium. So I don't think anyways.
Nope, it's not.
Okay.
Cardinals are outdoors.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't think the Cardinals had an indoor or retractable stadium at this point. I should know that as a Cubs fan, but
let's see how many Cardinals games you watch.
Right. Right. So yeah, Becky Doudrop, it was what it was. Doudrop's now going to go back down she'll end up not working anything of note for a while. She got beat on main event this week. I mean, thanks for coming, Doudrop. That's kind of what this match was, which is too bad because I actually like Doudrop, but I hate the name, but I like the character. I like Piper Niven, and I think a great time when you changed your character would have been for her to say, I'm not Doudrop, I'm Piper Niven. But I digress. The WWE title match, we kind of talked about that. Anything more to say on? I think we probably had our say on that one.
No, I guess. Do you think it would have been any different had the sign not caught on fire? Do you think the crowd reaction would have been any different? I personally don't.
Not much. Maybe a little more invested, because I feel like they were totally uninvested. But I also think the match itself didn't help, because this was, as we talked about last week, that match at the Royal Rumble that there seems to be at least one of every year where the champ's defending against somebody that has absolutely no shot of winning. One of these years when they do that, I would love to see the person that has no shot of winning win the dumb thing. You can always swap it back at Elimination Chamber or do something like that, tell a short-term story, but make people think like, oh, I thought I knew it was going to happen, and then you went there. Like The Miz winning when he cashed in his Money in the Bank a year or two ago, or a year ago. I think it was in 2021, actually, before losing the title right away to Bobby Lashley. Like, nobody thought that was going to happen. And then it happened. And The Miz won the title. I believe that might have been an Elimination Chamber last year. Now that I'm thinking about that, um, you know, zig when we think you're going to zag. Don't always zag when we know you're going to zag. Like that's my problem with WWE. They just can't. Surprise is not a thing they're good at. I mean, they announced 12 people in the Rumble who don't work for their company who could have been surprises, but instead we just named them. And did any one of those 12 people sell a ticket to the Royal Rumble? Did anybody go, oh, Summer Rae's in the Rumble, I got to go to it? Like, no. And nothing against Summer Rae, nothing against the Bellas. I don't think anybody bought a ticket to see the Bellas.
Well, what's the heat between Summer Rae and Natalya? Remember Summer Rae dropped, or did you see Summer dropped an F-bomb on her way to the ring?
Well, and they said something about like the long-standing rivalry between Summer Rae and Natalya, and I'm like, did I forget something? Because maybe it happened, but I don't remember a long-standing rivalry between Summer Rae and anybody, frankly. Summer Rae is one of those characters who was there, and I remember her with Fandango, and I remember that she was around, for some other stuff, but I don't know. She doesn't resonate with me. I know there was some blowback when they called her a WWE legend. And I'm like, oh, that's just the phrase they use for anybody who doesn't work there anymore. Who's in good standing. Doesn't mean they were all-time great. It just means, their legends deal are for former wrestlers, former employees. So I get, it's kind of like calling them superstars or calling pay-per-views premium live events, or they have their phrasing that they use. They don't say hospital, they say medical facility, things like that. It's just Vince and his wording. Would I call Summer Rae a WWE legend? No, I would call her a former WWE performer, but that's not as nice as legend, I guess. Yeah, that was a little bit weird. Like, a long-standing beef, and I'm like, I missed something on Twitter. I don't follow either one of them, so perhaps I have missed something. And there was some jaw-jacking going on. The mixed tag match, Edge and Beth beat Miz and Maurice. This was a mixed tag match. It was an Edge match that didn't go 20 minutes. So there's that.
Is the universe falling apart today?
Although I'll say it felt a little longer than it was. I actually went back and looked at what the time. Wrestling Observer usually does a good job of having the times on the matches. So I went back after I'd finished the Rumble and looked at what the time was, because the match for me felt a little long, but it was really only like 12 minutes, if I remember right.
Is that a bad thing? when it feels long and it was really only 12 minutes?
Yeah, I think that's how I felt about it. It was just like, it was there. It was a match.
I felt it was just there and just was a match as well. And it was probably because of where it was placed on the card. But again, I don't know that you could have put it anywhere else and it would have fit differently or felt differently.
It felt weird for me for Edge to be the popcorn match, like the let him down match, between and when Brock and Bobby, were announced as the next match, 2 matches before the main event. Excuse me. I knew then that obviously the mixed tag was going to go in the quote semi-main event match spot, and I knew that was for a let him down match, after the big angle, which further cemented that angle was probably happening with the placement, in that you let him come down before the Rumble. But weird for Edge to be in that spot. I don't know, just odd. Be interesting to see where they take Edge for WrestleMania. I know AJ Styles has been on Twitter asking for that match. We mentioned it last week. Sign me up. I mean, we haven't seen that before, I don't believe, and give those 2 12 or 15 minutes at WrestleMania, and I think they could put together something pretty cool.
Well, it's going to be 20 at that point.
Well, that's true. It's WrestleMania. It'll be 20 for Edge.
But
they could probably do something cool for 20 minutes. So,
but there, you bring up a good question before we even get to talking about the Rumble. There are a lot of big names. I'm using air quotes for those watching, and for those just listening, you need to understand I'm using air quotes. Big names that we don't know what they're doing for WrestleMania. Not that that has to be clear on the day after the Rumble, but when you have your AJ Styles, your Edges, your Seth Rollins, like usually you kind of can forecast
Bobby Lashley
where they're headed. Yeah, Bobby Lashley is even in that mix, even though he has the title right now.
What would, if you had to put pen to paper today, what's your WWE title match at WrestleMania? Like, what do you think they'll do? Not what would you do, because those are probably 2 very different things. What do you think they'll do?
Dude, I honestly have no idea. I haven't given, you're putting me on the spot. So I mean, full transparency, I haven't given it thought. I don't believe they do a title versus title match. I don't think it's merited. And like, I don't know why you would do that when you have two different brands, unless we are not going to have two different brands, which doesn't make sense when you're on competing networks and you're looking to
and you have 900 people under contract still.
Right. And you're looking to incentivize, like, this is why Raw is a draw. This is why, and you're selling billions of dollars in rights or whatever the number is.
I also think if you were going to do title versus title, it would make more sense if both of your champs had been dominant for like a whole year and like nobody can beat them, nobody can beat them, nobody can beat them. Boom. Now they're going to collide. Oh, that feels like a huge match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
If you do title versus title, Brock's going to have the WWE title for like 6 weeks before Mania, 5 weeks.
So to try to give it what I believe could happen as an answer. And this is a little informed by what's gone on this week behind the scenes. Lashley, Seth Rollins seems like it could be like not only really good but make some sense.
And again, who's the heel?
Well, and that goes back to originally day one, Rollins was going to be the one-on-one shot. He's never gotten it. So again, you can link that story to go. He's finally getting a shot on the grandest stage of them all.
And that would work for it, honestly, on the Raw side. It's the only thing that makes any sense. I mean, unless you bring somebody else in, or unless Brock wins the title, or you totally switch things. Could you go completely just bat something crazy, put the belt on Riddle, and have Randy turn on him because Riddle wins the belt? Riddle and Randy is your WWE title match. Again, I'm going crazy there, but he's in the match. There's a chance. I don't think you're putting it on Austin Theory yet. So,
and did you? So I'm guessing you heard or saw the rumor about that Riddle at one point was booked to win the Rumble. Did you?
PW Insider put that out, and then I've also seen Sean Ross Sapp and some others say everybody they've talked to says no, that was never in the plan. So I don't know. I've seen the rumor, and PW Insider is usually spot on with their things, as is Sean Ross Sapp. So it's interesting that they have very different reports on that, in that they're both two of the, I think, top reporting sites out there as far as making sure they got their stuff right. I haven't seen PW Insider issue any sort of retraction on that. I also haven't seen them double down on it and say, well, we're right. They're both those sites are professional enough that they're not going to get into pissing matches about it. But yeah, I mean, Riddle, if that was potentially in the cards, he's a shot to win the Elimination Chamber. Maybe I normally don't watch the Saudi shows, but I don't know. Maybe I'll watch the Chamber now.
The crazy part that it's on a Saturday, again, since all of the premium live events are really shifting to Saturday, save for WrestleMania.
That's on a Saturday, Sunday. So
yes, correct. It is Saturday, Sunday. Do we know the time that it's, because again, it is in Saudi Arabia, so that's a much different world clock.
I want to say it is at noon, something like that. Hang on, I got it right here.
I mean, again, they won't be competing with football. They will be competing with college basketball. Again, I think you could argue who in the world is a diehard college basketball fan and who's a diehard WWE fan, where you're going to be like, oh, I have to watch my team at noon.
Right.
On that Saturday.
It is at noon Eastern, following a 1-hour kickoff show at 11 a.m. Eastern. So noon your time, 11 a.m. my time. Sorry, I got a little cough there. I'm trying to mute those out.
Brunch with the Elimination Chamber.
Absolutely, on a Saturday. So, well, let's get to the Rumble. And we've hinted and talked about little pieces of this throughout, but the Rumble, Brock wins the Rumble. He comes in at number 30. He was 30.
Yeah,
I love how I knew that.
Come on, Jim.
Underwhelming Rumble for me because of missed opportunities, I feel like.
And I think that's fair. Again, like I said, I was generally entertained by the whole show. again, is that me walking into it with low expectations? I'll be honest. I didn't like the whole thing with Brock. I understand that's the vehicle to get where we're going. I still didn't like it. I don't think. Again, I think you use the Rumble to elevate someone.
You could still get to Brock Roman.
You absolutely could.
Right. You could have somebody win the Rumble who then goes on to challenge Bobby Lashley or whoever the WWE champion is. You could have Riddle win the Rumble and then have Orton win the Chamber, who he's not even in the Chamber, but you could put him in the Chamber. Again, you get to pick these things, guys. That's how this works. And then build to that. You could have Orton win and then have Riddle win the Chamber. You could have Rollins win and he challenges Lashley. You could, all of these things you could do, which Rollins apparently originally was going to potentially be in the Rumble. And then things got changed. And apparently originally he was going to have some sort of a interaction with Shane O'Mac, the best in the world.
When best equals worst.
Right.
That's when that's a true statement.
And then it was going to lead to Shane O'Mac and Rollins at Mania, which why? Don't do that. That's dumb. So I'm glad they're not. Shane O'Mac and Austin Theory, which was also a rumored match. Like, at least there's a story I can see there with Vince, his infatuation with Austin Theory. It's a little bit weird. But Shane could be jealous, whatever. I'm the son, not you. It's a dumb story, but they could tell it. Again, missed opportunities. The Iron Man in this match is AJ Styles, who came in at number 1, 29 minutes and 6 seconds, eliminated 6 people. The most eliminations, other than Brock, had 5. But yet, if you asked me if I felt like they put AJ Styles over strongly in the Rumble, I don't. Like, he was in there for 49 minutes. He eliminated 6 people, and I'm shocked at both of those numbers. And so it didn't feel like they told that story if they were telling it. Damian Priest.
Seriously.
WTF.
Seriously.
What in the world?
Yeah.
Like, less than 10 minutes, I believe. I've got it here in front of me. I just got to find him. But when I looked at it before, 11 minutes, eliminated nobody. Nobody.
Damian Priest for me in the men's Rumble was equivalent to Sasha Banks in the women's Rumble. And I'm sure there were other examples to draw up, but those are the two, like, if I were to say missed opportunity, those come to mind right away.
Nobody had the Kane spot, as where you'd throw out 8 or 10 guys. Nobody had that spot in this match. Almost got 3 eliminations. 3. He's the big 7-foot giant guy. Like, have him throw a few more people out. At least you had it take like 6 or 7 guys to get him out. Chad Gable, my goodness, that guy. I heard on one of the Fightful podcasts this week somebody saying, I had been thinking it, so we're on the same wavelength. He's the modern day Kurt Angle right now. Like, he's so funny, and he can go in the ring. And I don't think they've quite let us see how I mean, you can see how good he is in the ring, but they haven't booked him in that way quite yet. But he could be a star for them, I think.
Well, I go back to the American Alpha days. Think about American Alpha and FTR. Well, whatever they were called back.
The revival, yeah.
So, I mean, good golly. Like, you knew what was on the table, and now you're just getting it in a different capacity. Again, I don't think he's being weighed down by Otis, because I think it's a great dynamic. But I do think a singles run would be so good. So good.
My fear is they see him as the Marty Jannetty.
Sure. Yeah, you're not incorrect in that opinion.
And he's not. Like, you have 2 Shawn Michaels there, I think, actually, in very different ways. Obviously, Otis is not going to be a Shawn Michaels in the ring, but I think they can do something with Otis. I think Otis definitely has potential.
Otis, the second coming of Mr. WrestleMania.
Right. I think Otis is great, but I think Gable's great too. So you could have these guys really be 2 single stars that you could build around your Otises, your Chad Gables, your Riddles, your Austin Theories. There's another one, Austin Theory, kind of unceremoniously gets eliminated by AJ. Was in there for 22 minutes, only eliminated one person. And that one elimination actually he was one of the group that eliminated Omos. So not even really, he didn't throw anybody by himself.
What do you think about the Kofi Kingston spot and how it didn't like work out like they didn't hope or they had hoped for?
I felt bad for him. He's done so many of those cool spots. He clearly was not supposed to touch the ground. Kudos to them though for just saying, you know what, he touched the ground, he's out. Like, and not trying to go, oh no, he didn't actually. Like, no, he clearly, I mean, wasn't one foot, it was both. You know, he missed.
Did you happen to see John Morrison's tweet about what he was planning a few years back that they wouldn't let him do by chance? Okay.
No, I did not.
So I think it's on Twitter. I don't remember for sure where I saw it. I know it was on some social platform. Anyhow, he was going to like kind of do like an acai style moonsault flip off the second rope on an elimination. Like he was going to go over the top, get stuck in that position. Someone was going to hit him, and he was going to flip and then land butt first on the padding on the barrier. And they showed him practicing it earlier in the day, and they had guys there with like pads to kind of buffer to see if he could like hit it. And they ended up not doing the spot because I think it's a little too risky. But like he used that as a saying, hey, you know what? All of these things are 1 inch away from being, you know, hitting or missing their mark. And again, I think it was a couple more inches for Kofi, but still that he was making that analogy of kind of praising Kofi for having the gumption to give it a shot.
Right. Yeah. No, and I thought it was a cool spot. And if it could have worked, you know, I always love seeing what Kofi's going to do. You know, there's always one of those, it seems like, for him, one or two. Yeah, just missed. To flip to the other side of the New Day, thanks for being at the top, Big E. Welcome back to mid-card obscurity and nobody giving two craps about.
Well, and that was going to be one of the names I mentioned too when we think about what could be for WrestleMania, but it does appear he's literally going back to being slotted as a tag wrestler with the New Day, and I just don't know how or why you even can justify that. I just really don't.
My guess is we're getting Usos New Day at Mania because we haven't seen that 9 million times. It's good every time, but that'd be my guess. He's angling for Goldberg. I just don't think they're positioning him in a way that would make any sense. But I mean, if he wants it, I'm willing to. You know, I don't really want to see Goldberg. And Goldberg's apparently working the Chamber show. I read last night, so maybe and that's rumored to be the last match on his current contract. Which, fine, put him out in Saudi.
Put him out in Saudi. Famous last words.
Right. Maybe I shouldn't have said that way.
Did you mean something else by that? Yeah.
And, not trying to kill the man. Goldberg doesn't do a whole lot for it. He was better in his last match with Bobby, but I'm fine not seeing Goldberg anymore. If he's got one more match, fine, whatever. Smaller potato thing. Ray and Dominic had been having this kind of back and forth over the last couple of weeks on Raw where they would dump each other over the top. And it was, you know, Ray was teaching Dominic, don't trust anybody in the Rumble. And then Dominic was teaching him, I learned from you. And then they're not even in the match at the same time.
Again, who's in charge of the stories, right? Like that. Just, right. That's what.
You've literally been telling a story, and then I'm shocked they remembered to get Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn in the ring at the same time. You know, like I just, you know, your surprises were weak in this match. I thought, you know, Bad Bunny, okay, fine. Again.
Here's the thing. I have such a positive opinion of Bad Bunny coming off of last year's WrestleMania that I was excited to see the guy. Like, what does that tell you?
Right. And he's the only one that understands how the match works, apparently, too. You know, I did have to laugh that they were putting Bad Bunny over. You know, Bunny knows exactly what he's doing in there. He's throwing people. He's not trusting anybody. He's hanging onto the rope. He's, you know, Bad Bunny for me, he did really well at WrestleMania. I am not super plugged into current pop culture, current music. I know some of it. I'm aware of some of it because I run a trivia company more than anything. I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. I'm not against Bad Bunny. I'm just not. He's not on my phone for the music I listen to. So I was excited to see him in that he had done so well at Mania, and I thought he did fine here. But so that was a decent one. Brock obviously was a surprise. Honestly, I think most of the rest. Oh, Shane O'Mac, and the rest of your surprises. Drew McIntyre came back. Excuse me. I'm ready for that feud to be done now. Like, he threw them both out. He destroyed them. Let's move on. Let's have Drew do something. If he's able, if that wasn't just a one-off while he's rehabbing, which I'm guessing it wasn't, I don't think you'd bring him back for the Rumble. The Rumble is a match where you could come in and just kind of do nothing and then get thrown out and be pretty safe. But, he was in there for 19 minutes. So I'm thinking the neck is at least close to ready. Maybe there was, hey, don't powerbomb him kind of thing, or things. I don't know. But he didn't look like he was hurting. If he was hurting, he hit it well. That's for sure. But wrestlers are also very good at hiding those things. Shane O'Mac, and now Shane's apparently gone.
I read he booked the Rumble.
He was one of the producers on the Rumble, and he's apparently catching the most heat.
Which is weird, right? Like, that sounds like a way to pass the buck, if you're asking me. Again, I'm not justifying, but like, you made the choice. Someone made the choice to say, yeah, let him be part of that decision-making process. But then to have the guillotine fall on his neck.
Well, apparently he was very concerned about his own stuff, which I can understand being frustrated about that. But then in the moment, look at him and go, this Rumble's not about you. Like, stop.
Yep.
I don't know. Just correct it at that point.
Dad, they won't let me get my spots in.
Right. That's what it feels like almost. They miss Pat Patterson. I mean, there's no question. Pat Patterson was, the guy who put these Rumbles together for years, and they were usually pretty darn good and had those moments thought out. Like, okay, we've been telling the Rey and Dominic thing. Let's make sure we have them in the ring. Even if one of them doesn't eliminate the other, which would have made sense, actually. Have some teases of it and have some, whatever. Usually built somebody. If it was Kane just going off, it's Roman Reigns a number of years ago going off, throwing people out. You built nobody in this Rumble besides Brock, and he didn't need building. Kevin Owens, thanks for resigning, buddy. You got thrown out by Shane O'Mac, and then you got beat by Austin Theory on Raw, not in the Chamber. Well, if he signed for financial security, then good on Kevin Owens. And I'm glad he has that, because creatively, they ain't doing crap with him. It's just clear. He is not going to be a focus. And it's just mind-numbing that they have this potential star who it wouldn't take that much to get hot again. Just let him be. Let him win some matches. And they can't do it. Shane O'Mac throws him out for nothing, because now it's not even going to Shane O'Mac and Kevin Owens, which we don't need to see again anyways. We saw enough of that. And it was never going there. So anyway, I don't know. So Brock wins. We're on the road to WrestleMania, Tom. Whatever that means. The Elimination Chamber has been set up. It's Bobby Lashley defending against Brock, Riddle, Austin Theory, AJ Styles,
Seth
Rollins. And then Becky Lynch is going to defend the Raw Women's title against Lita, which did Lita and Charlotte had a match here recently, didn't they?
No, Lita returned at the Rumble.
She returned at the Rumble. Okay, she just had a brawl with Charlotte or something then. She'd been on SmackDown. They'd announced she was going back. She'd been on SmackDown.
Got it. Okay. I don't remember by looking at results recently that Lita's had a match, but I could have overlooked it.
Yeah, maybe she hasn't. Maybe it just seemed like it was leading there. So this might be her first one-on-one match, which will be interesting to see how she does against Becky. You're certainly putting her in there against somebody that I don't know if Lita needs carrying at this point, but Becky can lead it if she needs to.
No, I think this actually has the potential to be really good. Now, females in Saudi Arabia, okay, they're they're
going to be covered neck to feet.
Yeah, right. So that's the thing for me. Like, it goes, okay, well, I mean, I know you can't not like promote your talent. There's a time and place.
I just wish that they would. like the first women's match, which was Alexa and Natalia, I want to say, a couple of years ago.
I think you're right. Yeah.
They had gear that went neck to foot. Like they had actual gear. Where the last Saudi show, like Becky and might have been Sasha had a match. That doesn't seem like it makes sense. Anyways, whoever the match was, might have been Becky and Bianca. Now that I say that, anyways, they looked like they were in their workout gear, like kind of t-shirt, tights, like I don't know. Please don't look like you're in a workout gear. And maybe that was requested because maybe the other stuff was too tight, or I don't know. I know they're very, very conservative in the way they view things over in Saudi Arabia, like really conservative when it comes to women and that sort of thing. So at least they're getting a chance to work in Saudi, which is, I guess, a step in the right direction. I don't want to go political into that, but yeah. Tom, what else is going on in the world of pro wrestling that you want to talk about?
I mean, the big thing this week was the CM Punk MJF match on AEW Dynamite, which again, like not only getting a lot of time, like when Justin Roberts did that announcement, I'd been watching AEW kind of in the background, paid attention to the cool Mox Danielson segment at the beginning of the show. And then when this came on, I go, this seems like it's happening really early. So I paused the DVR and it was like at the 1:14 mark, maybe give or take. I'm like, There's still 45 minutes of episode left. I didn't watch it live on Wednesday night. I had other commitments. But I was like, wow, this is going to go long. Like unless they have an angle that I will be surprised by, like they're going to get a lot of time, which they did. Additionally, again, this was a draw. Like, they sold the venue. They sold out the venue, I'm guessing, before this was even announced.
Oh, I'm sure.
This is a pay-per-view caliber match. And so the fact that they gave that away on Wednesday was really surprising to me. Like I'm really like, and again, I had said it here before. I thought they were going to do an angle on Wednesday. I predicted correctly that they were going to interact on Wednesday. I said that about a month ago. I thought that we were getting an angle or a schmaz, whatever. They were gonna snafu it all up to get us to Revolution. And then we may come back at Revolution, but they didn't. They gave us a full match.
Very. Somebody I was just reading Wrestling Observer's report. They said the bell rang with about 40 minutes to go in the show, and they used about 39 of it for the match. So, 39-minute match, which never felt. You could tell they were going long in the way that they worked early on, and just the fact that if you looked at the clock, like you said, like you're like, this is either going long or, like you said, something else is going to happen. But they hadn't announced anything else for the show, and they went long, but it didn't feel long. Like where I say the Edge match was 12 minutes and it felt long. I never was like, oh gosh, we could just get to the end of this match already. And then they did the false finish, which I think helps with that. I didn't think the tape around the neck looked particularly great. I didn't feel like MJF was working it quite as hard as I thought he could have. So I was glad that wasn't the finish. And again, I wasn't watching it live either, and I did not pause after the false finish. So at first I thought, gosh, is that really the way we're ending the show? And then when I saw it fall out from under his arm and I saw Bryce just very slowly look down, which I thought was done great, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to a restart here.
One thing that I don't know that you've picked up on AEW is the refs have like their mics to communicate with backstage in their pockets. And Bryce Remsburg of all of the refs, I think doesn't conceal it well. You clearly see him put his hand in his right pocket multiple times. And then if you look to his lips, which you really shouldn't be for a referee, you can see him communicating. But it's the hand in the pocket that really does throws it off for me, right? Which it kind of communicate, what's going on there, right? And I think other referees have had like mics on the back or in their back pocket, whatever. AEW doesn't have to do it that way, but that needs to be something that they're a little bit more aware of, in my opinion. So that was, again, not a critique of the match, but just a critique of, I've noticed it enough in AEW where it's standing out. I also feel like this match was quite good, but not the best it could have been, which if they're going to come back on pay-per-view, you don't want to give us your best for free. I mean, that sounds like a bad statement to make, but you want to deliver, which they did, and you want to give fans something to look forward to more, which they, I believe, did. But when I think about Punk's matches thus far, kind of on the big stage, so like Darby, Kingston, and then this is third out of those in my mind. And when I think of MJF, because some of his more high profile matches, like Darby, like Jericho, and then this, I also think this is down below those as well.
I did have to laugh when MJF was coming out. If I read it right, his singles record in AEW is 19-4.
Yep.
In 3 years.
Again,
they have protected that guy.
They protected him for sure. You kind of wonder because he's so young. Like, are they like? Does he have a lifetime contract? Right? That they're just literally going, "Hey, we know we're going to put mileage on you at some point, but we'd rather not put that mileage on you now." Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, it was stunning to me when you see like Moxley, who's been there less time. Well, no, I guess about the same amount of time, but has missed some time. Has 50 matches or something. It was just jarring to me. Like, man, I knew he didn't work a ton because he was on my fantasy wrestling league team last year, and I kept wanting him to get some matches so he'd earn some points because he most often wins when he does wrestle. But wow. I think we're definitely getting the rematch at Revolution. I thought it was interesting, and I hadn't seen it originally, and then they showed the replay that Wardlow actually gave the ring to MJF.
Yeah, it wasn't picked up. It wasn't picked up until you saw the replay at the end, which was cool because it made you go, "Where did MJF get that ring?"
Right, and I think that was intentional that they didn't show it, which helped then also make you think when Wardlow stepped to the side, like, oh, is this the turn? Is it coming? And man, at some point here, maybe it's at Revolution. Maybe Wardlow turns there at the pay-per-view. Again, we've talked about it. That roof is going to blow off the place when he finally does. I think Wardlow can be a huge star for them when they pull the trigger. I think he's just bubbling there right now. He reminds me, of Batista when Batista was on the rise. Not now, forget about, current day Batista. But when Batista was on the rise and everybody was just ready for Batista to take that step, he reminds me of that. I think partially because of the build and the power moves and all of that too. But that's my comp that I think of with Wardlow right now.
So now we have seen the 2 of the 3 big signings of last fall take their first official loss. Adam Cole's loss in the lights out match, because it was a lights out match, doesn't technically count kind of as a pinfall loss or a submission loss. And he's telling that story too. He was really hot about it. The promo, I don't know if you saw that promo on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Two kind of a twofold question. Would you have predicted Adam Cole to be the last one to take the loss of those 3? A second part of that question, were the losses to the right people for Danielson and for Punk?
First question, no, I would not have predicted Cole to be the last one. I would have figured he was number 1 probably out of those 3. Second part, yes, 100% Page and MJF are the right guys to win those matches because those are 2 of your pillars that you always talk about. There are other guys who could have, Darby could have been in there too, certainly.
Page technically isn't a pillar. It's Jungle Boy, Guevara, MJF, and Darby. But I do agree with you. He is a pillar, even though because he's just a hair older than I think that core group, and that's probably why he's not slotted in with them.
I was going to say I'd put him over Sammy, to be honest. And I like Sammy. I just, if you're talking about, I think you can build with Sammy. I think you build more with Page at this moment, at least. And I'm really tired of Sammy's sign gimmick. I
like it. I like it. I think it's fun.
I fast forward through picture in picture, so I don't even read it. It's for me. I think those 2 losses were to the right people. In fact, my thought as I was watching Wednesday night is you got to put MJF over here, or you got to do a schmaz, screw job thing, which kind of you got a little bit of, and I was glad he didn't win clean because A, he's MJF. He doesn't necessarily have to win clean all the time. In fact, he shouldn't. And B, it gives you a reason now to build to that match at the pay-per-view, and maybe you put Wardlow in a shark cage or something. I don't think you should do that, but
put the ring in a shark cage.
There you go. Maybe it's a steel cage match at the pay-per-view. I don't know. That could be entertaining. I thought it was a good match.
What I want to know is why, when you apply some really serious logic, there's a gap here. And I don't mean that this is not a critique of AEW. This is just it's coming to me now, and I think it's a little bit funny. Of course, there's no replay in pro wrestling. But if you were to run the tape back against Darby, it was the ring that caused Darby to lose. You run this back, it's the ring that caused Punk to lose. No one's calling that out. No one's naming that MJF is a dirty, lying, no good, foul mouth, cheating son of a gun. We know it to be true, but they're not emphasizing that fact. And maybe they will at some point, and maybe they're saving that. They're holding on to that nugget of storytelling for the right opponent. And again, does it behoove a babyface to complain about taking a loss because of cheating? Or are they above that? Is complaining beneath them?
I hope that when Punk speaks next week or whenever it is, I hope he says, you know what? Yeah, you got me. You hit me with a ring, but you got me. But, I've done some shady stuff in my past too, or something along, like call it out, but yet go ahead and, like you said, not bellyache about it, but just like, all right, cool. Now here's what we're going to do to solve this, or, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I, on the flip side for AEW, Brandy Rhodes randomly was in the ring when we came back from commercial at one point. I know she's been on Dark Elevation and things like that lately. And I'm glad she's back. She wants to be back in the ring. Actually, this week, while I was working, binged all of Rhodes to the Top, which I had not watched when it was originally on. So kind of saw her desire to get back in the ring after having the baby, and good for her. It was a bad segment. It was just bad. She healed the crowd. She said, we're here in Cleveland when they were in Chicago, which, okay, heel 101, the reverse Mick Foley, basically, which got her a boo. And she wants to be a heel. That was very clear in Rhodes at the Top. That's what she sees herself as the heel. And I think she plays the heel pretty well. She does the, for lack of a better word, bitchy heel, pretty well. But then of all people to come out and confront her, you have Dan Lambert come out, who's also a heel. Again, why? Like, did Vince McMahon book this segment? I asked you that before we recorded. So now we have Dan Lambert coming out and bragging on Brandy, who's a heel, and then he brings out Paige Van Zant, who, okay, she's been teased as being involved a few different times and things, never really done anything. So it appears we're going towards a Brandy Paige Van Zant match.
Heel versus heel, perhaps, based on Dan Lambert's involvement.
Right.
Or are they trying to get to Cody through Brandy? Because I think there's still an issue with Cody.
I think that's the thing, but that's maybe that's the problem is, and they touch on this in Rhodes versus the Top, or Rhodes to the Top, Rhodes versus the Top. What is that?
Well, people could argue that it is Rhodes versus the Top.
Right. It is that Cody wants to be a babyface. Brandy wants to be a heel. That's a weird dynamic.
Yeah. Well, go back to when she was with Luther, right? Which that kind of was a fart in church from the jump.
And then the Nightmare Collective or whatever it was.
Yeah, they quickly went away from that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those segments where I'm like, wow, AEW doesn't have a complete clunker of a segment often. They have them from time to time, and you're gonna. But that one just stuck out like a sore thumb on Wednesday night. Like everything else I thought was pretty good. To go back to what you said earlier, the Danielson Moxley segment was fascinating to me. Kudos to AEW and Tony Khan or whoever, or Danielson, Moxley, whoever came up with it, because we all thought it was leading to Danielson versus Moxley, and it still could.
It will, but it doesn't have to now at Revolution.
Right. Yes.
And that's where I thought we might get that, but save it for Double or Nothing. I don't.
A year from now.
Add that too. Save it for All Out. I don't want the Lucha Express. I'm sorry, Jurassic Express to lose the belts necessarily. But if you're gonna have Danielson and Moxley win them and just be like a crazy, like,
run through everybody team,
a dynamic team, I'm here for it.
And I loved the idea too that Danielson floated of what if it's Danielson, Moxley, and a couple of young guys.
Yeah,
He dreamed Dante Martin and Lee Moriarty and
Daniel Garcia,
which Garcia would fit beautifully with Danielson. That would be great. Better than, even though I think his team with 2.0 somehow works, it's a very differing dynamic work where you have Danielson could be tutoring Garcia to be a killer. That could help really elevate Garcia, which you and I are both a fan of that idea. What if you did a faction of Danielson, Moxley, and a couple of young guys, run that for 6-8 months, a year, and then you have the eventual breakup, you have the eventual Danielson Moxley match. But you've hopefully, if you've done it right, elevated 2 or 3 young guys in the process who are all kind of there, but not, the names he dropped are guys that have the talent, have the ability, but haven't really been focused on yet.
Yeah.
So sign me up if that's where we're headed, because that feels like a really fun ride that we could go on. And you got 2 of the best talkers in the game leading that faction. So the promos are going to be great. They can also help those younger guys work on those promos, because I don't know that any one of those 3 is known as a great talker yet. From a development standpoint and just an excitement standpoint, I'm here for it. Have them kill some folks along the way. That'd be good. Trying to think anything else. GCW has announced 474 shows for WrestleMania weekend, I believe. So that'll be, I won't be able to see them all, because even though I'm going to try to take that Friday and Monday off, I always try to and make that my own little personal wrestling vacation sitting in the man cave. Goodness. And even WWE, Friday night, they're going to have SmackDown on WrestleMania weekend, and they're going to follow it with the Hall of Fame directly after. And then Saturday, apparently, is going to be the doubleheader of NXT Stand and Deliver and night 1 of WrestleMania.
It's a lot of wrestling. A lot
of wrestling. I am excited, though, for matches to start getting announced, and I know it'll be maybe a couple more weeks. We've already got Gresham and Bandito, but when they start announcing the matches for WrestleMania weekend and on the other random shows that'll be happening at the Collective and at other places, where you see those matches where you're like, I didn't know I ever wanted to see that, but now I do,
Yeah.
Random indie guy versus Haku, or, whatever. I mean, like, Black Label Pro is usually good at having 1 or 2 of those matches where you're like, the Rock and Roll Express worked at an indie a couple of weeks back against FTR. Like, who even thinks about that match? But I'd love to find a way to see that match now. Like, just sounds fun. Rock and Roll Express, FTR, cool. By the way, are we going to get FTR Briscoe sometime in 2022? Is that going to happen?
Yep. And here's the thing: it's going to hit us like a sledgehammer, and we're going to love every minute of it when it finally does come together.
Let's do it. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Jim, have you ever heard of the term or the statement, "Good things come to those who wait"?
Yeah, I'm not good at waiting. WWE has conditioned me to not wait for anything. They give it to me right now, and then it's over, and we forget it ever happened, and we move on, which is not how I like wrestling. But yeah, talk about a slow burn on this. Every time when FTR was on Rampage the other night, I was like, well, it's taped. I feel like I would have been spoiled if the Briscoes showed up on Rampage, and they didn't. But I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. Man, AEW's got some good stuff coming. That's all I know. Like, not shocked. Texas Deathmatch next week. Paige, Archer. Archer's not winning that belt, but
and Paige gets to bleed again, though.
Can I just say the Dan Lambert with Archer thing is weird too?
Yeah,
that's a little bit weird. You didn't need him. Jake's there. If Jake was out, I could see it. You're giving him a mouthpiece, but him and Jake together with Archer is just like, why do we have 2 managers who can talk?
Right. It's like a manager and a promoter, or it's like I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I can't name it.
Right. It's just weird. And Archer's actually not terrible at promos. I mean, he doesn't need to be giving 20-minute monologues, but a quick I'm gonna murder everybody dies, kind of thing works fine for his character. Anyways, I'm just bouncing all over the place here.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, there's good stuff coming up with AEW, and I think that there's still another month before Revolution. I think the next 4 weeks of TV are going to be really exciting as the build comes. Again, I'm sure we're looking at a 10-match card, give or take. So, I don't think we even know or can think of a one match that's locked in other than maybe Punk and MJF, which, that's probably it about right now. So,
yeah, I'm just kind of running through the title holders at least, and nothing. I mean, I could make guesses, but nothing seems like, oh yeah, they're headed there. Even with Britt, I'm not 100% sure where they're headed with her match. Yeah, be interesting to see. Darby versus Andrade maybe at Revolution.
Yeah,
that seems. Again, I don't mean to nitpick things, but I don't need Andrade with the HFO. Maybe I just don't need the HFO, but
that's the fair statement to make. Yes,
right, or at least the H. The other people in it I like, but let's get rid of Hardy. I'm kind of over Matt Hardy. And Isaiah Cassidy's going to get killed Friday night, but that's okay. I think we're leading to that split maybe happening down the road too. So, well, it's a fun time to be a fan of pro wrestling, and let's see. Next week is not Elimination Chamber, so we'll have an episode next week where we can talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, I would say, depending on where we are with our collective viewing of NXT, it might be a good thing to talk about NXT because they'll be headed into
Vengeance Day the following week. Yep.
Yeah. What is it again?
Vengeance Day.
Vengeance Day.
Yeah.
I almost call it Saint Vengeance Day, like Saint Valentine's Day Massacre or whatever that.
Right, which they had a pay-per-view called that once too.
Yeah.
That was where Big Show debuted. Vengeance Day, which has 2 matches already announced. Carmelo Hayes against Cameron Grimes for the North American title, and then they announced there's no big angle for it or anything, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything for you, Tom. That Indy and Persia are going to get their women's tag title shot at Vengeance Day,
and the men's Dusty Classic finals are there also.
Yep, the men's Dusty Cup finals, which I think has to be the Creed brothers versus MSK, but MSK is facing Malik and Idris, and Creeds are facing grizzled young veterans.
Yeah, unless Imperium costs the Creed brothers to give us something else with Imperium versus Diamond Mine, I do think you're on the money.
Yeah, I agree, because somehow we're getting to Creed brothers and Imperium, whether it's the Creed brothers winning the whole tournament. That's my hope since I picked up one of the Creed brothers.
Always rooting for pro wrestling things in reality based on your fantasy.
Absolutely. That makes it even more fun. So, well, everybody, let's see. We'll make our Super Bowl picks next week as well. We don't have to make those this week because there's no game this week. So, is the Pro Bowl this week?
Pro Bowl is this weekend, which again, who cares? I was actually kind of bummed I missed the skills competition. I think that's always fun. That brings me back to like Wide World of Sports back in the 80s when they would have like.
Did you ever play the quarterback, the video game, the quarterback challenge video game?
Yeah.
It wasn't quarterback challenge, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, much easier when I was younger. Now when you do it now with an old arm, a 40-year-old plus arm, not as easy. It hurt if you feel it the next day. So let me just say, my son was thrilled with the Bengals victory over the Chiefs. He and Joe Burrow have the same initials, and he realized that Sunday when we were watching the game together. He was really down in the first half, and then when the Bengals started to come back, he goes, "Dad, I think they're going to pull it off. Dad, I think they're going to pull it off." And then I was starting to prep dinner, and they went to OT, and he goes, the Bengals had the ball. And I go, I thought the Chiefs got the ball to start. He goes, they did. I go, how did the ball switch? He goes, I don't remember. Which again is, very typical for a 10-year-old who's really just getting into football, not really paying attention 100%. But I came down and I saw McPherson ready to kick that field goal. And I said, Bud, that's a chip shot for this guy. I said, the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I go, unless this kick gets blocked, I go, they're definitely going. He goes, are you serious? And I go, absolutely. And then moment of silence as we watched them kick. And sure enough. And then he ran around the house playing Industry Baby by Lil Nas X. So like he was screaming. He was thrilled. So he's definitely pulling for the Bengals. I don't know who I'm pulling for yet. You might think because of my former affinity for Matt Stafford as a Detroit Lion that I should cheer for the Rams. I really like both teams. So I don't. It's not a pick 'em per se, but today it's a pick 'em.
Yeah, I'm happy with whoever wins because Matt Stafford, I think, has proven me wrong. We've talked about that before. That he is as talented as they say. And so after so many years on a team that, sorry, Tom, has never gave him a real shot. I mean, he had Calvin Johnson, but he never had a defense. He never had some other parts that he needed. It's cool to see him get that opportunity. There's a couple former Bears on the Rams, I think, as well. Leonard Floyd for sure. And the Bengals, how can you not root for a team? As a Cubs fan, I look at teams that have been crappy for so long, and now, here they are again 33 years later in the Super Bowl. Wouldn't have been crazy, though, if the Niners had beat the Rams. The Bengals have been in 3 Super Bowls. The first 2, they played the 49ers. It could have been 3 for 3 against the 49ers, which would have been kind of crazy when you think about it. But it wasn't meant to be. It's the Rams. So we will be headed to the Super Bowl and see. We'll make that pick next week, though. Tom, anything else?
Yeah, no, we're good. I look forward to that, and enjoy whatever wrestling you see next week. It's nice with not necessarily being destination shows. You kind of just can, I don't want to say relax and watch wrestling, because you should always relax and watch wrestling, but like the urgency of a Royal Rumble isn't upon us this weekend.
Agreed. A couple of GCW shows, but I'm not planning on ordering them, to be honest, but I'll keep my eyes on them because I got to score them. So, all right, everybody, have a great weekend. We will talk to you soon next week. Thanks for joining us here on Two Spot Monkeys Live.